this video, we discuss about crypto is signaling this major move. Let's start. Bitcoin is that even when we had issues with some of the regionals where they were dropping 50 like 2 weeks ago, Bitcoin actually came down, and to me that tells me Bitcoin doesn't know what it is yet. Is it a digital gold? Is it a risk asset? And so far I'm in the camp that I think Bitcoin topped out at 30,500 recently, and I actually think we're going to head lower. I'm still in the camp that I think we're probably not making the bottom in Bitcoin yet. You've previously said that you do see Bitcoin dropping to 12 or 13,000, and if it drops through that support line, then it could go as low as 9,000, in 2023. So 2023, maybe into 2024, the 9,001, but I do think by year end, it's very possible we could see 12 to 13, or at least double bottom at 15 to 7. Gareth Sloway is a renowned technical trader and the chief market strategist at InTheMoneyStocks.com. Gareth initially rose to prominence as one of the few people that called the top of the crypto markets in late 2021 and was extremely accurate on the move downwards all throughout 2022. At the latest Bitcoin 2023 conference, Gareth sat down with Kitco News to discuss his latest outlook on the Bitcoin and crypto markets and how he sees the rest of 2023 playing out. Interestingly, Gareth is standing against the common consensus of most investors with his contrarian view, and he believes that we have not seen the bottom for Bitcoin or crypto markets. Rather, Gareth believes we will see another final leg down in Bitcoin to at least a double bottom at $15,000, if not going on lower to 12 or 13,000. He argues that most investors are assuming that the central bank and Federal Reserve will step into markets if we see too much of a sell-off, and they will turn the money printers back on and lower interest rates. He believes this is a wrong assumption, and because of inflation, interest rates will stay higher for longer than most expect, and the money printing will not resume like everyone thinks it will. Before we jump into Gareth's latest outlook, only a small percentage of my viewers are actually subscribed. If you enjoy finance content, consider subscribing or liking the video. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Bitcoin is going through this crazy period where people are just gambling on these coins, and I've said this before, but I've never seen other questions. On the other coins, but it's all the psychology of it, right? It's when people feel like they can gamble, and they can just sell it to someone else higher, and they know deep down there's no utility. That is not a sign of a bottom in a market like a Bitcoin bull market. It's a sign of a top. And so now, if you expand that out and say, okay, Bitcoin is still a risk asset. Well, what if the stock market does start to tumble? Where does Bitcoin go? And that's my thesis, is that we will hit a recession. The market doesn't think that the Fed won't come to the rescue. The market and investors are conditioned for now 10 to 15 years. Every time there's a hiccup, the Fed prints money. I don't think they do it this time, and that is going to be a shock. It's going to revalue the stock market 20 to 30% lower from here, and that will take Bitcoin back down. The Fed intends, like in their mind, they're like, we have to be hard about this. We can't let it get away from us. And I think they'll try to hold out, but just like always, eventually the Fed will print. But we're talking about them holding out to such a level where the market doesn't expect this. Because again, look at 2018. We had the Fed begin to raise rates. The market dropped 20% in like 6 weeks, and the Fed started instantly to reverse. And that's what the markets have come to. That's what they expect. The tantrums have yielded right results, but that was when inflation was under 2%. So now, this is the key, and the market doesn't realize that yet. So on our way down, there's a huge level around 23 to 24,000. If that breaks, you're headed to the 15,700 level, which is your double bottom. And then if that breaks, your next stopping point would be 12 to 13. So I'm very much a trader in that I look at the levels on the charts, and if one level breaks, if support breaks, the likely target is your next support line. And to me, 9 is a very intriguing number, because if the 10,000 will be max pain and the markets, there's something about the markets and the psychology of the markets that it makes it so that the market wants to flush the most people out possible. And to me, where would that be if you ever saw Bitcoin break 10? People would finally panic and throw up. Everyone says, oh, I'd buy 1 million, Bitcoin or whatever. That's nonsense. Panic would set in, and that's usually where bottoms are made. I'm such a contrarian that I want to see like I start buying when panic, or they say blood in the streets. That's the term. When you see that, that's when you step up. Vice versa, when you see the gambling that's going on right now and the crazy moves in some of the stops in cryptos, that's why I start to nibble on the short side. This is the kicker, right? Is that we are seeing the Nasdaq rally and is in rally right now, but this is the amazing thing. This is where I get all giddy and excited because, so if you look historically, and this is what I do, right? It's looking historically at charts. When we topped out in 2021, Bitcoin topped out in November, right? 6 weeks later, these and the Nasdaq topped out. If you go back to 2017, we topped out in December in Bitcoin, and about 4 to 6 weeks later, we topped out on these and 500 in the Nasdaq. And so what you're looking at here is, in my opinion, the Nasdaq and per rallying, but you're seeing that greed come in where I think in just the last weekend, the video is up like 10 to 15%, right? It's getting close to all-time highs. That, to me, is the final push-up. And ultimately, we're now at 4 weeks since Bitcoin topped. And so the idea is within 4 to 6 weeks that Nasdaq should top. And now you're going to look for a flush top, previous all-time highs, or just no, it's just in this cycle, just like Bitcoin. Bitcoin didn't get back to all-time highs. It just got to 30,500. The same thing here. We should start to see the next leg down, both in crypto, which has started these and 4 to 6 weeks later, which is right now, it's in the next 2 weeks, because Bitcoin is a leading indicator, if you will, for movement for these and 500 Nasdaq. Absolutely, it's a sheen, it is an indicator, and I'll tell you why. It's because people de-risk when they start to get nervous. They sell their riskiest positions first, which is crypto, then the next riskiest stocks, and then it goes down the chain. So it makes a lot of sense why Bitcoin would be a leader for telling us that the S&P would top out. We know we're still in a bear market in crypto. Number 2, I think it speaks to the economy, right? I mean, it's not cheap to come to these conferences. And I think people, you have to pay for the hotel, you have to pay for the flight if you're not in the vicinity, and then you have to pay for the ticket. And so I think it also speaks to an economy where last year, people were coming out of COVID, right? They all wanted to take trips. Anyways, what better place to go than the Bitcoin conference in Miami? Well, now you're past that, and people are having a little bit more trouble with money. I think just for the most part, it's very cool to see all the innovation out there in the booths. And then, of course, you always see Michael Saylor making speeches and everything like that. So I think, for the most part, it's bringing together people that have a vision of a future that has less government intervention. I think that's a very cool way to be, and I think that's one of the great things about these conferences. So I am interested. I personally would also like to see a little bit more regulation, and just so I know what I'm investing and what the rules are, but I think that absolutely some of these other coins, Polygon, for instance, Polkadot, Solana, I think the technology is very interesting and what's being built on them. But right now, I personally dabble in Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's all I'm willing to because, again, it's about quantifying risk. As an investor, as a trader, I have to be able to quantify risk, and I don't with the government being shady on this. I just can't do that. And what's your position on Ethereum right now? I think Ethereum is interesting. It's a little bit concerning to see the gas fees spiking as much as they have, because it makes it very expensive to use, I should say. But I think ultimately it's here to stay, and I'm okay investing in something like that. So there's Gareth Solway on why he thinks we haven't seen the bottom in markets, and he does make a convincing point, although I don't necessarily agree with him. If the factors play out like he speculates, we could definitely see another leg lower. I, like most current investors, believe that the Fed and central banks will be put under way too much pressure from the public and government officials to let markets go too low. Not only would we see more banks collapse, but with an election coming up next year, I think the pressure is too great to eventually continue printing money and lowering interest rates to fuel the economy. However, it is always good to consider opposing viewpoints, and generally, the best time to make money is standing against the common consensus and being fearful when others are greedy. But what do you guys think? Do you think Gareth is correct and we'll see another leg down, or do you think the FTX blow-up at the end of last year truly signaled the bottom